All right, let's talk about scene authoring tools. These are all about accelerating and simplifying scene creation. In the Extend Omniverse contest, we have 3 categories: creating custom UIs, scene modifier tools, and scene authoring tools. So in this video, we're going to really hit in on scene authoring tools. And these are where you will programmatically populate or accelerate aspects of authoring scenes. So let's take a look at it. The first is you start in Omniverse Launcher and launch code. Great. And one of the tutorials that we have is the very basic, practically hello world of extensions, which is spawn a cube. It's got a very simplistic UI and a button. When you click it, boop, a sphere appears, not a sphere, a cube appears. And that's it. It really shows you how to build an extension end to end and how to, grab commands from the commands window and then bring them into your code very easily. It's a great way to get started, and it really exposes you to this notion of scene authoring tools. Let's dig a little further. I'm going to put this away over here. Sounds good. Let's open up another extension to show you some more interesting, complex ways to author scenes. If I go to Window and I scroll all the way down to Extensions, this will open up the Extension Manager. So here's my Extension Manager, and it's got all the extensions that are used to build Omniverse code and the ones I have installed. The way I add extensions to this is this little cog, this little gear up here, and then you go out to the GitHub repo with all of our samples for scene authoring or for any of the samples, and you can just add the link to them here. And you can add a Git protocol reference, or if you download them to your machine, you can just go directly from your machine. And then those extensions will show up in here. Now, I want to search for one that is built in. So that is the scatter brush. So here's the scatter brush. We've got it here. I'm going to turn it on. Yeah, great. And it showed up over here. Let me show you how you can open up anytime. If you go to the window, paint, it'll show up over here. Yeah. So now you've got this UI that has a paintbrush, an erase brush, and it has a selector for the various assets that you might want to paint into a scene. Let me show you how it works. Let's just do it. So if I go create mesh plane, let's get something to draw on. And I can toggle with W, E, and R. So I'll use R so that I can rescale. And there we go. We've got a plane that we can draw on. So now I can choose the paintbrush. And as I click and move around the scene, I'm drawing. And what's happening is this asset is drawn rarely, and this asset is drawn commonly. And I can change how frequently these different assets might show up. If I prefer to have this one with the big tall cattails in it, I'll put that up really high, and now you'll see there's way more cattails showing up. Now this UI has a variety of other affordances. It's got all the different properties you might want to have to change the variability of the different aspects of these assets, and of course you can add other assets and as you saw, change the rarity of them. You can also erase, so I can click on there and I can start erasing. I can erase everything with the flood. If I use paint and then flood, it'll just draw it across the scene according to my configuration. So that's an example of a scene authoring tool. It allows you to get in there and get a job done really, really quickly. So the question, I guess, is how would you go about building something like this, right? Well, let me show you how you could investigate that. If you go to Extensions and click on the scatter brush, or any extension that you might want to learn more about, maybe it's one that you get from GitHub and one of our samples, you want to explore it, or any of the ones inside of Omniverse that are built in, or this specific scatter brush. I would go click on the extension I'm curious about, And then notice here there's a Visual Studio, Open in Visual Studio button. I click on that, and up comes Visual Studio. I can see I'm in my Omni Paint brush, my scatter brush. If I look at extensions.py, that sort of orients you to how the extension is initiated. I can also go look into the various different components here. Like here's a brush. If I want to see how those are used, I can see the erase tool. I can check out the UI, see how the UI is built. And you just have access to take the parts that you find most interesting and include them into your extension. So it's a really good way to learn how this all works. Okay, great. So with that, think about what scene authoring tools might you want to build that would be really helpful for the community. I think there's a couple angles to think about. One is, what are very repetitive tasks? Tasks that's just like, oh, it'd be really annoying to have to draw each of these bushes individually. So now I can just draw with a paintbrush and scatter them. So repetitive tasks are a really good example. Another one is very niche specific scenarios. So for example, maybe there is a problem where you need to draw a fence, right? So you can draw a path and then spawn a fence along that path. Or maybe it's parking cones for a construction job site. So think about either of those. Both are great examples of being able to simplify and accelerate the act of authoring a scene. Also, don't forget, in the Extend Omniverse contest, there are several categories. This one, scene authoring tools, but also scene modifying tools and creating custom UIs. So go check those out, see what you like about them, and I can't wait to see what you build.